We got a video I've been dying to watch from a player that certainly understands this aspect of the game a lot better than I do. And it's University of Stanton. So PvPer, understands the ships, combat, and all that stuff. If you guys are not familiar with University of Stanton, because he's still very, very new to the space, there's the link to the video. For the people who watched the last React video, they kept telling me to post the channel in the comments. The video that I'm watching is always the first link in the comment. So you could click that video and then subscribe to the channel that way. I usually just leave it with that one link. If you guys feel like I need to post the channel name as well for simplicity, let me know. I'll do that as well. That's no problem at all. I just think that we're smarter on the internet that we can click the link and get all of it. Like, hey, there's the original video in case you're like, yo, this guy's yapping. I don't want to hear him yapping over the video. I just want to watch the original video. And you can get to the channel that way as well. It's like we've used YouTube before, I assume, but for some people, maybe not as much. I don't know. But this is University of Stanton. The title is Weapons, Ships, and More Changes Coming to 324 PTU. Now, we're still in Wave 1 PTU. These are the changes so far. By the time we get to live, maybe there will be more changes, but the last couple the last couple PTU patches have had no feature updates, only bug fixes. So it's probably a good time for the video because I don't know if we're going to be getting any more updates than that.
3.24 has been settling gingerly into PTU Wave 1, and this video is actually not about the personal hangar and inventory for a change. There's a whole mess of nerfs, buffs, and other likely stat changes to be aware of before this patch hits live. Thankfully, our friends have been working these out quicker than the staunchest of 2012 backers could start getting tired of these ridiculously tedious inventory kiosks.
Ugh.
What the actual guys? Let's all bend over and get ready for 3.24, I guess. This is University of Stanton. Class is in session.
Yeah, I don't know why it autoed at 720p.
These are, in my opinion, the most important changes, and these are the changes as we know them now. There's still a chance they could change before live, just...
Again, in his opinion, the most important changes, because he's a PvPer. But I think these are the ones that are going under the radar the most.
I think not much of one. There are a number of little 1%-ish adjustments that may not necessarily get mentioned here as being particularly important. I'm reporting on the things that might stand to change the way you play the game. Although CIG stated that fine-tuning of the flight model would be pushed off until 4.0, quite a bit has actually been adjusted here, either purposely or as a knock-on effect of some other changes. We'll start with the ships themselves, beginning with protection, then look at stealth and signature, and finally flight performance. A relatively new armor segment on ships now serves as a modifier for the ship's hit points when striking it with different weapons like energy or ballistics. This and the raw hit point number can be changed independently to fine-tune a ship's tankiness.
This is crazy. The armor one. Is it a temporary solution before Maelstrom, or is it the Maelstrom solution that... Like it, or is it what will inform Maelstrom, you know?
That's what we'll be looking at today. First here, the Vanguard line finally got some love. It might not make much of a difference because of its place in the flight model, but it's...
Hasn't that been there for a while? I think the armor thing has been there for a while, but I don't think the damage modifiers have been. Right? So this damage multiplier to armor, negative 10% physical, negative 7% energy, negative 7% distortion. I don't remember these things ever existing.
It's received a 7 to 10% improvement in its hull damage resistances and an absolutely massive increase in its nose, body, and left-right engine structures, over 10,000 hit points each. The Warden...
Yeah, that's a big deal as well, right? Some of these ships, their engines fall off and they become completely out of, you know, being able to be used or whatever in that fight. But I want to touch more on the damage multiplier thing. Like, fairly balanced multipliers that you see right here. You've seen those in Urkel for a while. Okay, maybe it's something that's going over my head. Because he's marking the changes, I don't look at Urkel and look at these things, so maybe this is a thing. But what I just look at here is that you get to potentially say, this ship is made of this material, which is heavily, absorbs energy or distortion.
Hoplite, and Harbinger get the best of this at 10,000.
You get the option to make very unique experiences with certain ships and make them play well against certain metas or whatever, right?
And 670, while the Sentinel, which is being tuned just slightly to be the fastest of the four, more on that later, gets just 500 less than that. The Gladius just caught a 0.43 physical modifier, giving it a slight hedge against incidental ballistic damage, as well as a 7% buff to body hit points. The Hurricane took a major buff over its nose and body hit points, up from 3,500 to now 10,000, which actually puts it ahead of the Scorpius in terms of main hull components.
Oh, wow.
Now, with the Scorpius as a target...
Because the Scorpius was king for these types of ships for a little while now.
You do still have to contend with the wings eating up some of that damage, but this at least brings the Hurricane back into somewhat comparable territory. The F-8C Lightning became slightly tougher against ballistics, but slightly weaker against energy. The first combat ship I've seen to have a greater than 1 armor multiplier on anything, so kill it with lasers. It also got a slight 665 hit point bump on its body health, which should more than negate that.
Scorp is still faster, but the Hurricane is now tankier. So now we have choices for certain situations. Wow, that's crazy. F-8C buffed. No, F-8C nerfed. That, like, this is the first, like he just said, this is the first ship for him to see a damage multiplier that is in the positive, which means energy is going to get, like, you are doing 3% more damage with energy weapons against these.
And make it tougher overall. The Aopa ships, the Kartual and Santok Yai, now sport a 5% resistance to energy, but took a significant 7 and 20% debuff respectively to body hit points in the process, setting them back overall. The Argo Raft, Misk Starfarers, and the entire CO Mustang line specifically...
Whoa, that is... I just saw a positive there. So this one does 0.5%, like, it is a huge energy and distortion that it's in getting in trouble with, but it eats a lot of physical damage.
Line specifically were buffed slightly on hit points, but debuffed hard on multipliers, which could...
And then this one also, the Starfarer takes a lot of damage from energy and distortion as well now. Interesting. Very, 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 very interesting what they're going with here.
Which could leave them all in a pretty bad spot. Moving on to stealth and detection, a number of ships were significantly adjusted here as well. The Hornet Ghost is a stealth ship again. With a 25% reduction to its SIG multipliers, it'll now only be detectable at about 4 kilometers, versus
the
7 kilometer range its counterpart, the F-7A Mark II, appears at. The Mantis had a surprising buff as well, now only detectable inside about 8 kilometers. Take note.
Yo, that's crazy, because it's got the 20k bubble. So you could be bubbled by something and have no idea where it is. Can you see the red bubble from above an 8 kilometer distance? Bubble's 12k now? Oh, that's right. Oh, emission goes through the roof when you're using the bubble. That makes sense. Never mind.
Here,
okay.
Its jammer reaches out to 12 kilometers. Skilled pilots who manage to keep the Mantis in that 8 to 12 kilometer sweet spot can hold a target down without them having any idea they're there. The Asperia...
So yeah, he implies the same thing that I just thought, but that is not when the EM bubble is on. Or when the bubble is on. You said it goes up to 14,000 EM, which I'm not sure what that will... Well, I mean, it does say, look, it was 17,000 EM. So maybe he's on top of it here? Maybe? And it got an overall 17% reduction across the entire board, including cross-section.
Any idea they're there.
No, the addition of 14,000 EM. Okay, so it would be 28. Gotcha.
The Asperia Prowler, as predicted a couple months ago, also received a buff, and while it's detectable out to 7,300 meters, maybe a little less with shields off, it's a hell of a lot better than it was before. And definitely better than the Valkyrie, which, just in case anyone actually flies that piece of shit, actually became even more detectable.
He just blocked a curse word with a missile sound.
Just in case it wasn't going to die fast enough. You'll see it from 20 kilometers away now.
I was just about to say, that's very weird that they want a one drop ship to be stealthy. So I was like, okay, maybe they want all drop ships to be stealthy. I wonder what the other drop... And then he comes right in and goes, yeah, this Valkyrie is horrible.
Meanwhile, the entire Mirai Fury line was debuffed, and purely on IR emissions alone should be detectable as far out as 9,400 meters. Don't expect to sneak in these things anymore.
I'm confused by that. Maybe this is some sort of radar change, but then when you look... Okay, yeah. I was going to say when you look, but is it going away? No. So there was no change to its cross-section. So what's the difference between cross-section and EM and infrared in the new system, I wonder? We'll have to see.
Detectable as far out as 9,400 meters. Don't expect to sneak in these things anymore. The Starfarers were also debuffed for some reason, just in case it wasn't visible enough, I guess. This is a great time to give a big old mention to spviewer.eu. Developer Olakeen has created a detection calculator that's made for quick, easy answers to the question of, how far away can I be detected anyway?
That's cool.
Consider dropping by and showing some support for this and the other great tools becoming available on this site. Finally, and probably most impactful, we'll look at the flight performance changes to ships, which includes how quickly they can move, accelerate, and turn. Biggest note here is a series of nerfs to the Hornet line. All Hornet variants now top out at no more than 220 SCM and 1150 nav. Turning stats have all been flattened to 56, 45, 150, and most of them, with the exception of the F7A Mark I and the F7C Mark II, took minor 3 to 6% debuffs to most of their acceleration Gs, and 4 to 5% debuffs to their max forward and back boost speeds. While these ships are still powerful, CIG has clearly attempted to pump the brakes a little to allow other ships a word in edgewise. However,
yeah, I mean, everybody was just using the Hornet. The thing is I'm seeing a lot of the people that, and he might get into this too, because it was all from the people that of the org that he's in, were saying that, okay, yeah, you could nerf the way the ship flies, but then you just slow everything down and make the fights less interesting. The problem here isn't the way the ships are flying necessarily. The problem here is the amount of guns on this ship in particular. It's insane.
While there's no stat to quantify this, the patch notes and many pilots' general impressions have indicated that the Hornet and possibly some other ships are now performing with much better stability in atmospheric conditions, so this will be something to look forward to. But the second biggest note is that the Aegis Saber and Comet finally got some love, bringing their pitch yaw roll up significantly.
Crazy Noob in Twitch chat just linked SP Viewer, which I should really bookmark, to be honest.
To 55, 55, 160 base, and between 7 to 15% increases in all thrust directions. It's still no light fighter, and it doesn't have the guns to contend with a medium fighter, but this is, finally, a step in the right direction for a ship that's needed attention for a very long time.
The Saber needs something to combat its cross-section, right? It was supposed to be a stealth ship, and I don't know if it's still stealthy, but the Saber, you just turn and you die, you know? I don't know how stealthy it is or if it isn't. 2K detection range. That's crazy. Okay, so that's cool. And it's getting a little bit of love in the way it flies. So nice. Again, I am not in... I have completely removed myself from combat in this game. I know a lot of people tout it's like master mode's bad, master mode's bad, master mode's bad. For me, it was the Hornet bad. Every time I jumped in to Arena Commander, I do not have an F7A. And because I do not have an F7A, my experience was just generally bad. And it could be, partly master modes or whatever. But it just ruined my love, my excitement for trying to get better. I talked about this like around the time that Summit was playing. It was like, man, Summit is so inspiring. He's inspiring me to get better at the game. Look at how hard he's trying to work at getting better at combat, things like that. I should be doing those things. And it was very motivating for me. And every night I was playing Arena Commander by myself. Sometimes I would drop in this Shadow Moses Discord or something like that, and hang out with them. But for the most part, I was just kind of doing it by myself, and I was having fun. But then it just got to the point where people started realizing about the F7A. And when half the lobby had them, all of a sudden, at the point where I gave up, 90% of the lobby had them. You kill Hornets with the Talon. That's great. You're probably like, twice the talent that I am, right? Talon's pretty strong. I used it a little bit as well, but I was still getting really frustrated. It was just, man, you get killed so fast against Hornets that it's just like, this is not fun. So I got to figure out when I'm going to jump back in. And I don't know if the nerf to the way the Hornets fly is enough, because the thing that I really struggled with was, I'm getting shot. Okay, how do I and then I was dead. Right? And yeah, we know about the Firebird being a mess as well. Maybe he addresses that. I don't know.
The Vanguard line looks interesting right now, as all 4 of them are being broken out with variations for their roles. The Sentinel pulls ahead as the fastest and most nimble of the group, so if you're looking to use one solo, this one's your choice. Its PYR is now 40, 34, 126, with 5% stronger forward and 7% stronger side strafes, maxing SCM at 217. I can't speak for the other variants just yet, but the Sentinel could finally start seeing a place for itself in the field again. The Gladius received a slight increase to forward thrust, strafe, and max speed, but a debuff to retro. The F8C Lightning had its pitch and yaw equalized to 35, ouch, but got slight buffs to acceleration. Some industrial ships got some love here in the meantime. The MP.
I mean, he says ouch, but I think he says ouch from the dogfighting perspective. But do we really, I mean, maybe we're getting too held up on Squadron 42 demos or whatever. I just never really look at the Hornet as somebody who's going to be dogfighting. I look at the Hornet as somebody who's going to be taking out retaliators, taking out, I don't know, redeemers, those kind of ships.
UV Tractor was actually buffed heavily within its own context for that riveting hangar gameplay, with SCM speed coming up to 175 and pitch and yaw reaching 35 now, as well as a shot to forward boost speed. Same for the Argo Raft, look for a much more useful pitch, yaw, and roll. And both Starfarer models bumped up to...
I gotta say that the Raft does feel pretty good. It is not a C1, I feel like, but this is just coming from the feel. But the Raft holds, 32 more cargo.
147 SCM with much more useful 48, 48, 113 pitch, yaw, and roll, and healthy buffs to acceleration, which, hilariously, puts it ahead of certain fighters. And this was unexpected.
I believe that was nerfed, the Starfarer, right?
The entire CO Mustang line had a massive buff to pitch and roll, up to 72, 53, 205, making them a much more fitting entry for playing in light fighter territory, as long as their pilots are willing to use the pitch and roll combination.
That's the problem with making videos like this, is you do your research, and then you post the video, and literally 3 minutes later, they post a patch that makes your video, not relevant anymore, even though this video is incredibly relevant. But the only thing that I think changed from it so far was the Starfarer.
To get most of their maneuvering work done.
My picture's blocking the left list. It was just what's been buffed or not. I can lower myself a little bit if you'd like. But then you guys go away, and everybody likes to see what you guys have to say. But I'll go there. I'll go away for a little bit.
One last note to wrap this up, almost all the ships I looked at were showing an increase in fuel usage rate, so maybe start keeping an eye on your gauge. It might be dropping a little faster than you remember. Interesting implications for Pyro.
Maybe.
Certain ship components, primarily the Regulus, Maelstrom, and Superdrive for power plants, Bracer, Arctic, and Mercury for coolers, and the All-Stop, Full Block, and Stronghold for shields are still lacking the hit points they should have. There have been no significant changes to ship system components. However,
I don't think we're going to see too many significant changes to ship system components until engineering. It makes no sense to balance these in any way at this moment when everything is about to change insanely.
gimbals, turrets, and mounts of various types gotta pass this patch, including...
That makes sense. Gimbals, things that are on the outside of the ship, make sense. The things that are on the inside of the ship, do not touch them. Do not touch them. Leave them alone. Talk to us when you get engineering in, and let's get this right.
Including the notoriously flimsy F7A Mark II nose mount. All of the Hornet nose mounts were bumped down or up as necessary to set them at 1500 hit points, as were the MSR and Crusader Spirit nose turrets.
Okay.
The S5 Hornet Mark II ball turret went up to 2750 points, CO Mustang nose turret up to 400, Santok gimbal mount up to 850, and the standard size 1 through 5 Verapuck mounts in a range from 525 to 2640 hit points.
Nice.
Guns all around are going to be just a...
So when I was doing the engineering demo, yeah, I can link to the video to you now. There you go. The engineering demo, one of the tactics that was pretty strong when it was A2 versus A2 was to, instead of to shoot the hull of the ship and try to hit the power plant or whatever, you would take out whatever turret guns were shooting at you, and they would come off quite easily. And I assume it's because of these Verapuck mounts that were just had a little bit maybe too low health. I don't know, but still 500, still quite low, and still quite viable to shoot them off.
A touch more survivable in 3.24, with less motivation to run ballistics for the express purpose of clipping the F7A Mark II's guns. A glance down the Gravlev list shows that some kind of refactoring is happening here, as almost all Gravlev stats have had a wild swing in all directions.
Well, I don't know if you're aware. I mean, I'm a huge Gravlev racer, right? I was, in the top 3 in the leaderboards for lap time and stuff like that, or for race time. I can't remember, but I was up there. And I don't know what happened, but a patch came out and it was just dead. It was dead. It was not fun anymore. The way they felt was terrible. So they need to handle it. Humble brag? Nah, man. I'm super proud of how hard I worked and how good I got at that.
The first and probably most key change is the mass, which has roughly doubled or more for each vehicle.
Was it Master Mode slowing it down? I don't think it was Master Mode slowing it down. It was there were like components missing and some weird stuff. But let's go back. I don't want to talk over him.
Key change is the mass, which has roughly doubled or more for each vehicle, and the net results in overall performance are not that different, so it looks like something was being changed under the hood and how they work. It may be worth some time testing to see if these are, hopefully, a little bit less accident prone. The most sweeping change to weapons is that the fire rate and precision...
The only thing that came in the patch that he has not addressed had nothing to do with the ships themselves. It had to do with like collision near the surface. I mean, we've seen a lot of fun clips lately of people driving vehicles and just randomly dying. That happens with Gravlevs as well. So we think that was addressing perhaps Gravlev racing, and then definitely Gravlev racing on Clio Islands. If you went below the water a little bit, you died. Stuff like that, right?
Collision mode across the board has been drastically increased. Previously, it was only half, roughly, of a weapon's base fire rate. Now it's 85% of that base fire.
This is the biggest change he's mentioned so far. Holy shit. That is a big change, everybody. If you go into precision mode, you are pretty darn accurate, and the drawback was the drawback of just incredibly low fire rate. You're only getting a reduced fire rate of 15% now. That's crazy.
Rate, which is a comparatively minor loss. What this means is increased viability for precision mode against large targets from...
Most people don't even use precision mode, so a buff might get more folks to use it. I mean, yes, this is crazy. Yeah, Ares enters the chat. Turrets enter the chat. What?
farther away, which only
Can you steer in precision mode? Maybe?
stands to deepen the advantage that
I feel like I've only been in precision mode in a turret.
Small single pilot ships have.
You don't know how to use it. Alt right click. Alt right click will get you into precision mode. And yes, you can steer. Okay, yeah. I can't remember. I was usually in a turret when we were doing engineering stuff, and that's where I mostly use this.
Against large multi-cruise ships, while multi-cruise ship turrets have not yet received any of their new discussed advantages. And as you'll see in a moment, this may very well come into play because the other most sweeping change is a slight shift towards spray gameplay, with spread on nearly all weapons being increased, while many, but not all, weapons had damage per hit slightly decreased. If you were kiting larger ships from untouchable range, you may just need to make use of precision mode now to make sure those hits hit with the same reliability. In the world of energy repeaters, the slower, heavier hitting attrition received a 3 to 4% damage buff per shot, the mid-range NDBs went up 5 to 6% per shot, and everyone's favorite CFs were crowned with a whopping 8% damage buff. In energy cannons, the light strikes were given the faintest of a 1% nod, consolation prize, and
so not only are the weapons getting... Sorry, the cat is making noise. Not only are the weapons getting a buff for lasers, but the ships are getting debuffs, a lot of them, for laser damage. So these are compounding on top of each other.
Nobody uses them is what I thought until I saw the size 1 to 3 FLs did as well, and with no loss on spread. The M-Series was hit hard though, down 10% damage across the board, as were the very popular Omniskis and their size 3 cousin, the Quarrel.
Yeah, M-Series and Omniskies were go-tos. I don't know about the Quarrelers.
While this may not totally upend the cannon meta, cannons are still very much ahead of repeaters in terms of efficiency of capacitor energy. This could give an unfortunate nod towards the range kiting strategy we're occasionally seeing. The SF-70 cannon on the Ares Ion also saw a much-needed adjustment, the ability to hold a fully charged shot for up to 2.5 seconds before releasing it. Maximum damage per shot was nerfed by 10% down to 5,400, but the max charge time was reduced to 1.75, allowing for faster refire depending on the pilot.
Okay. That's a good change, I think. I mean, that ship has been... That ship has gone through it.
Most FPS weapons have also gone unchanged, as the time to kill is supposedly where CIG seems to want it for now. But the overall preference for SMGs was addressed in the form of a 12% debuff to projectile damage on the C-54 and 10% to that of the Custodian. PHC enjoyers are safe for now.
That's a good thing. The C-54 was insane. If you ever went into a match and somebody wasn't using a C-54, you knew they were dumb. And you knew they were bad. If somebody was using a Custodian, you knew they were still living in the last patch. Like this is again something that I invested a lot of time into, and I definitely think the C-54 needed a little bit of a buff, debuff. What it probably needed was also a reduction in its magazine, but just slightly.
The previous bug with the railgun was also supposedly fixed. Testing on
the damage bug. Like they said, it was just randomly not giving the damage it was supposed to.
On this front is pending, but expected to once again do significant damage from the ground to smaller air targets. Once again, this is all still in Wave 1 PTU, hopefully going to Wave 2 next week, and there's plenty of time for more adjustments to happen before then. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us at our Discord community to stay on top of the latest. I'd like to give a huge shout out to spviewer.eu and Ola Keen, Kestrel1 at Shadow Moses, and all the others for working tirelessly to unpack these rapid-fire PTU patches so we all know what's coming. Thanks as always to our fantastic and growing community. If you'd like to support the channel like our other great backers, please consider dropping by our Patreon in the description below, or join our Discord and chat about what you think 3.24 will bring. This is University of Stanton. Class dismissed.
Nice. Good video. Another great one from him. And yeah, it's been a long cycle, and that was one of the things that I just do not pay very much attention to is is unfortunately the ships because of the Hornet thing. So hopefully a lot of that stuff will be resolved with the Hornet, and we'll get to play a little bit more. But like most people that I talk to, they really don't think that it's going to make too many changes. But there's the video in the chat. If you guys haven't seen him yet, get subscribed to him again. He's very new to the space, but already making super high quality videos. He's new to the content creation space, but he's not new to Star Citizen at all, as you can tell. Really, really good. He just started making those. Yeah, that was the first one I've ever seen him make, to be honest. So, yeah, I think we'll be keeping up with those for sure over the next little while, because I think a lot of changes are happening. We know that there's Master Mode changes coming, things like that. So that's going to be my go-to to what's going on that front for sure, along with a few others. But how you guys feeling about 324? I don't know yet. I don't know. It's making me want to joke. Every time somebody talks about combat ships, it makes me want to challenge myself again. But I don't know this time. I don't know.